Hey there, gang. It is time for another comic book unboxing video, and this is actually part 2 of yesterday's box. That video ran a little long, so I had to pop a chop on it. So we're going to pick up where we left off, and if this half of the box is anything like the first half, I'm expecting a really random, eclectic mix of 4 color treasures. So if you like comic books, stick around. We're going to have some fun. Hey there, Bubby. Welcome to Shanghalla. My name is Duke, and this is an unboxing video. So, yeah, like I said, this is part 2 of yesterday's box. I will put a link to part 1 in the first pinned description in case you missed that one and would like to check it out. But at any rate, please do like, share, subscribe, do all the groovy things. And before we get started, I will just let you know that, remind you really, because this has been the case for the last several videos, these books are not from a new collection that we've purchased. These are inventory books. These are books that have been sitting in our warehouse for as much as 2 or 3 years, originally set aside to go into multi-book lots on eBay. We thought maybe it would behoove us to go through those boxes and take a second look at what we had, and maybe there are some things that could now be what we call a raw single. So keep that in mind as we go through these books. Are these books that you would be willing to pay $10 for all by itself, that one book? Because that's really our target when we put anything up on eBay, whether it's a multi-book lot or, as these are now bound for, raw single lots. So anyway, we are going to pick up right where we left off. So if it seems like we're kind of, starting in the middle of the action, well, we are. So have fun. I'll see you at the end. And we'll go to the next stack. Next little stack here is some more Todd McFarlane with Z Lizard. I don't know why I wanted to say it like that. I just felt like maybe it was a German lizard. I don't know. It's gecko. It's gecko German. I'm losing my mind. Stop talking. Here's a Christmas cover. You gotta love Santa Claus covers of comic books. Here is some, what's his name? I want to say Water Wizard, but no, Hydro Man. That's it. Water Wizard is the Ghost Rider villain. Here's some Venomy action. Number 317. These are stuck together. You got to be a little careful. You want to not bend the spine. I find what's usually best is to kind of start with the kind of a top and kind of peel down or peel evenly and lift it up that way. If you start from this side, you'll bend it and you'll get little creases in your spine. Nobody likes creases in their spine. Still Todd McFarlane. I don't know, at some point here we switch over to Eric Larson. Here is the last issue of the first volume of Superman after the Crisis on Infinite Earths. This was a 2-part story crossing over with Action Comics number 483. This is Superman 423. And so both titles would be canceled for a couple of months. And when they came back, the numbering would continue on a new title called Adventures of Superman, and Superman would start over at a new number 1, kind of kicking off that trend. These days, you can't hardly throw a brick in any direction without hitting a new number 1. There's Man-Wolf. That is exactly the creature we were talking about earlier that George Perez got his start on, but this is not Creatures on the Loose. This is Amazing Spider-Man on the Loose, a pretty low-grade book. I don't think that'll get to $10. That's low enough in the grade that, I'm going to do it because the owner put this in this box. I'm going to assume he knew what he was doing. And I'm going to do it. But I left to my own volition. That one I'd say, put it in a lot. Gunsmoke Western. Here is some more Kid Colt Outlaw, and that one's definitely some Kirby art. Some more Gunsmoke Western with kind of a rare multi-panel cover. Ghost Stories. This is Dell. This would be after the schism, the great Dell Gold Key schism, or I should say Dell Western schism. Dell was really a distributor and publisher, and the comic books that it published were actually packaged by a company called Western Publishing. And in the early 60s, around 1962 or so, they split. And Dell started actually producing its own content rather than, hiring Western to produce the content. But Western continued on its own under the Gold Key imprint. And as it happened, it kept most of the licenses. It actually held the licenses to the characters, the Walt Disney characters, the Looney Tune characters, all of that stuff that were published under the Dell imprint. The licenses were actually held by Western. So when they split, and I'm not sure I know exactly why they split. What was the reason for that great schism? If you know, say so in the comment down below. But most Dell books from that point forward were fairly inferior, or they were generic like this, ghost stories. And this is a pretty generic, run-of-the-mill title. I don't know that anybody has ever lauded any of the tales in ghost stories as an all-time classic. But it's still a fun book to have and worth reading if you can get it. Fritzi Ritz, this is a St. John book. So St. John for a time held the license to the United Feature Syndicate characters. United Feature actually started out publishing its own comic books, but then got out of the business and just licensed its characters to others. Fritzi Ritz, of course, is the comic strip character. She's the aunt to Nancy. And I don't know who even remembers Nancy nowadays, Nancy and Sluggo. But anyway, Nancy came along and completely took over poor Fritzi's comic strip. This is a really, really low-grade copy. This is like an 05, and it feels thin. It might not even be complete. Dr. Double X, his superpower, he's basically what we call him, one-off triplicate girl. Singular multiple man. He could make one duplicate of himself. So he was Dr. X and then Dr. Double X. But anyway, there's that. Here's Dennis the Menace. We saw Pat the Brat. This is what he was based off of. Dennis the Menace is Pines. Ned Pines was one of the earliest publishers in comic books. And that's some of his later output. Here's a Casper. Not a particularly early issue, number 60. And Casper will fool you too, because some of the early and later issues, the official title was Casper the Friendly Ghost. But for kind of the bulk of its run in the middle, between those two end caps, the title was actually The Friendly Ghost Casper. And that's not just, jiggering it around on the title, actually in the indicia. That's what it was. The official title here is The Friendly Ghost Casper. So sometimes, depending on the price guide, when you go looking for that, you might want to look under F and not C. He can fly anyway. What's the thing about needing the... I get the joke. It's not particularly new or original, even then. But what does he need it for? He can fly anyway. That's ridiculous. There's another Casper. Casper's full of ice cubes. Yep. And, Casper's kind of morbid when you think about it. It's a comic strip about a dead baby. What is this? Clues to successful truck operation. Well, this is not a comic book. I don't think. No, it's not. It's just a random magazine stuck in here. Why? This was picked, though. This isn't like something that... Does he want me to sell this? This is crazy. We get all kinds of stuff in, comic book collections. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I was opening some books in the office, and tucked in between some comic books were some angry letters from a homeowner association to the residents about cleaning up their yards and shit. And the association president was an absolute dick in this letter. He was like the original primordial Karen. This is from like the early 70s. So you find all kinds of things, in collections that come in, even when, nominally people will you would think go through their books when they arrange a sale to us. Again, the website is sellmycomicbooks.com if you yourself are interested in selling any books. So you think they would go through the books when they package them up to mail them to us, but we still get all kinds of weird stuff. But this is not from a collection that has come in. This is from books that have already been gone through and sorted. And these books were initially, as I said, in inventory, originally meant to be sold in multi-book lots. And the owner, unless he just, there's a Casper in the other end, so maybe he just grabbed a whole stack of Casper. He looked at them and saw, well, that's some Silver Age Casper, and he just grabbed the whole stack and stuck it in this box. But you would think he would have seen this going through it. And it's just a freaking, yeah, I mean, it's neat. The kind of, just the pictures of the old vehicles when that was like, the height of technology. I'd like to kind of drive around in one of these today. I would be all kind of super cool and retro hip. I don't know if you can see some of those. But I would love to have that Jeep, actually. Or I guess it's the same thing with the hardtop. See me getting that on and off myself. This is cool. I'm gonna grade that up, and I am going to put that up, and we'll see what happens. I mean, we've sold some like old 50s teen magazines, rock and roll mags, and things like that. So who knows? Never sold anything like this before. We'll see how it does. It's not beat up. It's in decent shape. I mean, it's maybe a like 5.5, maybe a 6 if I'm being generous. That's crazy. That's crazy. Well, now we're back to Casper. Like I said, that might have been just he grabbed a stack of them. Here's some Betty and Veronica. This looks like late 50s, early 60s. Archie Giant Series magazine is the actual title. That's another thing you got to be careful of. You'll go to look it up by Betty and Veronica or Betty and Veronica Summer Fun, but the actual title is Archie Giant Series magazine, which was only a giant book. For the first, I don't know, 100 or so issues, this thing went for like 600 issues because it came out like every week. But if you look in the indicia, it's actually Iron Giant, the Iron Giant Series magazine, Archie Giant. I've been a hot mess this video, I really have. I love this art style though. It's a little retro, a little more towards the kinds of things that Dan DeCarlo was doing at Marvel before he went over to Archie. And his woman, even in these cartoon stylings, were very sexy. Toned it down when he got to Archie, and then it got toned down even more. But I'm familiar with kind of the 70s art style of Archie, and this is a little bit before that. Still very much on model, but it's just got that little extra oomph to it. And there's the oomph right there. No. Oomph 1 and oomph 2. But these days, it doesn't seem like anybody knows how to draw Archie. Archie has kind of tried to do a more modern style for its books. But even when it does a new story in the classic style, they don't look right. They don't look right at all. And it's much more than the subtle shift of this kind of style to the more classic 70s style, 70s and 80s. It looks like somebody trying to do the classic style and not really knowing how. Like, I don't know. I can't explain it. You have to just look at a modern Archie book and try and explain to me. Anyway, moving on. This box is taking me about 5 times longer than it needed to go through. I've been very chatty. Anyway, that's Wendy, Witch World number 7. Here's Timmy the Timid Ghost. So just like Pat the Brat. Oh, you know what? I think I said earlier that Pat the Brat might have been an Archie book. I'm thinking now it might have been a Charlton book. But anyway, just like Pat the Brat was a ripoff of Dennis the Menace, Timmy the Timid Ghost was kind of a riff on Casper the Friendly Ghost. So there you go. Timmy, though, wasn't a baby. Timmy was actually a boy. Boris Karloff Thriller. That's a fun book. It only lasted 2 issues. Both are giant sizes like this one. This is the first one. Here's another Timmy. And I don't know what the little curly Q thing is there, but that's how he's generally depicted. It kind of looks like a ghost version of, what was that giveaway book? Adventures of Big Boy. You know, Big Boy, the restaurant chain. We never had any Big Boys here in the Northeast. But anyway, I only know Big Boy because of that comic book that ran forever. The Adventures of Big Boy. Now here's something fun. Young Romance. And romance books are pretty big these days. Now that is something like, I mentioned earlier that a lot of genres have kind of died off and the prices have tanked because nobody really wants them. The people who are the primary fans of that have died off and nobody's replaced them. But these romance books, because they're just so kitschy, there are fans of these still. And so a lot of people like that. People also like the mystery books, which were always kind of big. but they were mostly bought by a different set of collectors, more the casual buyers, and so they really weren't hoarded in top condition the way superhero books were. These were pretty much read and thrown around, tossed in the shoebox, ended up sold when the kid went to college and the mom had a garage sale. So it's hard to find these types of books in higher grade. Not impossible, just not as common. Here's some more. A witching hour. It's 12 o'clock. The witching hour. And actually 12 o'clock would be noon. I would think. Weird War Tales. That's a fun book. Weird War Tales is indeed a fun book. What was that? That last one was issue 8. This is number 10. Weird Mystery Tales. This series didn't last long at all. I think maybe 12 or 15 issues. But those are also fun books. This one's not a very high grade. Warlord, number 1. Kind of a weird, erratic publishing schedule on Warlord. And look at this. Mike Groh is clearly just learning his craft, because this leg, that's that's not just foreshortening here. That is one tiny little malproportioned leg. It looks like he's got some kind of a... Who was the what was her name? The Saturday Night Live character with the little teeny tiny hands. Can't remember her name. That's what it looks like, only with one foot. Anyway, Warlord had kind of an erratic schedule. He first appeared in, I think, the 8th issue of First Issue Special, and that's something that's confusing to a lot of people as well. First Issue Special number 8? What? Number 1, number 8? I don't get it. But it lasted like 13 issues, that series. But the 8th one had the first appearance of Warlord. Then almost immediately he got his own series, and it published 1 issue, and then I think the second one came out. It was like bi-monthly, so it came out 2 months later. And then there's like a 7 or 8 month gap until the 3rd issue. And then at that point, it was either bi-monthly or monthly till it lasted 130 some odd issues. Here's I don't know, that's about the 12th Superman Flash race. It's a kind of a weird multi-panel thing as well. It looks like a Neil Adams cover. These look Neil Adams-y anyway. These kind of less so. But these kids are definitely on model for Neil Adams. But, yeah, there were like 3 or 4 Superman Flash races. One of those things where they did it once and it sold so well, they're like, oh, do it again. Do it again. It's kind of like DC's current if back then DC had its current publishing philosophy, you'd have 20 Superman Flash race books every month. Because if a little is good, well, then more is better. Here's another early My Greatest Adventure. That's number 81. I have in my brain that the first Doom Patrol was 86, but obviously it's not, because that's 81. Was it 76? 79? I can't remember. I'll have to look it up. This is a classic story. I love this story. I really do. This is kind of the absolute zenith of the Silver Age Superman stuff. And this is on, I forget the name of the planet, Earthlow? No, that's not right. Where Lex Luthor is actually a hero. And it's just this great tragedy that, but for his obsession with Superman, Lex Luthor could have been a hero. And on this planet he was. And on this planet it's got a red sun, so Superman's powerless, and they can go toe-to-toe, mano-a-mano. So, and I think the boots, I forget what the boots do. It's been a long time since I've read this story, but it is a great classic story. Rather you can get this issue, well, rather you can get any copy of this issue, rather it's this one specifically, or you get this story in reprint fashion. The showdown between Luthor and Superman, that's a classic you wanna read. That should be, if they do a 100 or 1,000, what is it? Usually it's 1,000, but I would even on that I would go to 100. 100 comic books to read before you die. That's one. Here's Two Gun Kid. He also has a cowhide vest, but his is from an orange cow. those rare blood moon heifers. Here is he flying? What's going on here? Why is he up in the sky like that? If only the Two Gun Kid were here. So maybe it's a thought balloon and she's imagining him. Why is he up in the sky? That's freaking me out. There's no reason he should be up there. That's way too bizarre. Ah, The Killer and the Kid. Here's another one. That's number 61. That's a decent shape for a Silver Age Marvel Western. Strange Adventures. I love these Strange Adventure stories. At least while Julius Schwartz was still editing the title. The book got really kind of, low rent once Jack Schiff took over. Once they put Julius Schwartz on the Batman books, swapped him with that Jack Schiff, the title goes downhill in a hurry. But during this Julius Schwartz era, these are some fun stories. And a lot of fodder in some of these stories for characters that could be reused. If you got hired by DC and you're like, well, I don't want to give them any of my own characters because they don't pay enough. I'll get screwed later on down the road. You could mine Strange Adventures for some characters that they already own that you could still put your stamp on and not feel like you gave away your intellectual property. Adventures of the Fly. There he is. That's the Fly, buzzing about that submarine. Adventures of the Jaguar. And Jaguar's really only title was kind of running and jumping. only power. Did I say title? I did. I've been 5 hours on this box. I'm getting tired. Date with Judy. What is this? That's number 42. This was based on a radio show. In the early days, DC really couldn't afford to license any really good cartoon characters or TV shows or anything like that. Of course, TV was a new medium then. But so they licensed a bunch of radio shows, and one of them was this A Date with Judy. So that's kind of the teen humor of its day. Here is Adventure Comics number 310, Extra, a great two-part novel featuring the Legion of Superheroes. So back in this day, you would get not only a Superboy story, but also a two-part novel featuring the Legion of Superheroes. What is 310? I feel like this is a substitute Legion story. Let's see. Well, they've taken over the front of the book by this point. It didn't take long for them to kind of kick Superboy to... Oh, it's Mask Man. That's a stupid story. Mask Man, well, spoiler, 55-year-old comic book. I don't want to spoil it for you. But Mask Man is Mr. Mxyzptlk in disguise. I can't remember if it's him or a 30th century descendant of him or something like that. I think it's the descendant or just some other imp from the fifth dimension, from the same place as Mr. Mxyzptlk Dickly-do. I can't never say his name. The Shrinking Superman. So there you go. That one's beat to hell. That is a BTH right there. Tales Calculated to Drive You Bats. That was Archie's version of Mad. Some water stains here, but a fun little book. Here you go. Here's some more low grade, but still a fun book. And there's this was a big trope at the time. I don't know why, but it's like every third issue, Perry White was getting superpowers. So there you go. And this one's got something to do with Kandor, I guess, based on the prominent placement there. Maybe not. And the last book in this box you never thought we would get here. I'm probably going to have to edit this video down to 2 parts. It feels like I've been an hour at this. Adventures of the Fly. And we don't really know what issue number it is because Archie, these are Archie books, by the way. Archie didn't put issue numbers on these books for some reason. That's number, what does that say, 26, I think? Hard to read. I just knocked over the Joker. But that's okay. I'm going to pick them right up and say goodbye to you because it's that time. So thank you for joining in that. That was fun. I wasn't maybe at my top-notch best that time out, but I hope you did have a little bit of fun anyway. A little bit of a diversion at least. Showed you some books that maybe you've either never seen or haven't seen in a while, maybe even since you were a young reader yourself, back when kids actually read comic books. So until the next box, or the next video, whatever it might be, goodbye, good luck, and please be good to each other.